Welcome, one and all, whether you're a member of the Lemon Nation or not. Welcome. Okay, so welcome everyone to Lemon Live at 5, the Don Lemon Show. So grateful that you're here. Let us know where you are. Hello from Philly. Hi, Miss Lady Lil. Thank you so much. Okay, so you guys, you know the drill. Hit the like, the thumbs up. It affects the algorithm. More people will become aware of our channel, and it is important that they do so because we have great conversations here. And wait till you see the guests that we have. They are important. The topics we're covering, important too. You saw the thumbnail. They stole my girls. Now, that is essentially what Donald Trump is saying about one of the Jeffrey Epstein victims who took her own life. And possibly another woman who worked at Mar-a-Lago. He is claiming that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein stole his girls. And we're going to get into all of that. The other thing is, the other issue, which is the big issue, is that Ghislaine Maxwell wants to meet with Congress. She wants to testify, but she has certain rules that she wants. We're going to talk to our attorneys about that. First, before we bring our attorneys in, I just want you to hear this sound about stole our girls, and then I'll bring the attorneys in and we'll discuss all of it. Here's Donald Trump just today on Air Force One. Listen very closely, everyone.
So, Mr. President, Epstein has a certain reputation, obviously. But just curious, were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
Were some of them
young women?
Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken. And it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad. But that story's been pretty well out there. And the answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they were young women?
What did they do? In the spa.
In the spa?
Yeah, people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago. And people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told them, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Jeffrey?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her.
Okay, he stole her. Virginia, this is Virginia Jeffrey. Let's bring in Dina Doll, who is an attorney, a legal analyst, and also the host of the Midas Touch Network on the Midas Touch Network. Thank you for joining us. And then just moments, also attorney, legal analyst, and the host of the Katie Phang Show on YouTube is going to join us, powered by the Midas Touch Network. Katie Phang will join us in just moments. Okay, we're going to get to all of that, Dina. But the thing is, I'm wondering, I want to find out exactly how old Virginia Jeffrey was when she worked there, because he's still bragging about the spa and blah, 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 blah. So he's mentioning both of them. He's talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, who was apparently in cahoots with Jeffrey Epstein to steal these employees. Okay. And but I want to talk to you and to Katie Phang. There's Katie Phang about what Ghislaine Maxwell and her attorneys, I guess, are demanding, or the terms that they're setting for this possible testimony with Congress. We can put it up. Here's what it says. This is Maxwell offers to testify before Congress, but with major conditions, including immunity. Kyle Griffin has the demands more succinctly, just shortly here. Breaking news, MSNBC. On MSNBC, Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers tell the House Oversight Committee that if she's deposed, she'll invoke the Fifth Amendment unless she, 1, is granted immunity, 2, is given questions in advance, 3, is allowed to testify outside of prison, 4, has her petitions to courts resolved. What does that mean, Dina?
Well, now,
and will she get it?
Yes. Well, we know right now that she's asking the Supreme Court to overturn her conviction, saying the non-prosecution agreement the government entered into with Epstein back in 2008 also applied to her. So she's saying she wants to wait and see whether or not the Supreme Court steps in and rules in her favor or not. It's not surprising she's asking for the Fifth Amendment. That's something pretty typical any criminal defendant would do, or somebody who knows they're going to have liability. I think the bigger question is why they even want her to come, because we know she's perjured herself when she's testified before. So there's really no reasonable thinking that she's not going to come and lie before Congress. And I think that's the bigger picture, rather than her saying she wants immunity. That's probably anybody would do, but she's an unreliable witness from the start. And so why Congress thinks they want to hear from her is probably more political than anything.
Let's speak to the other counselor, attorney Katie Phang. What say you?
Well, hi, Don, and hi, Dina.
Hi, welcome.
Okay, well, so this is what I'm wondering. Are these the same conditions that she gave to Todd Blanche when Todd Blanche came rolling into Tallahassee last week and met for 9 hours with her? We have reporting that she, as in Ghislaine Maxwell, is the one who initiated the conversations with the DOJ. It's not like the DOJ went going to her. So apparently we know she got limited immunity last week. So she was able to speak freely, ostensibly, truthfully with the DOJ without a fear of what she's being said to be used against her. But in this instance, what do you need immunity for if, according to Ghislaine Maxwell, she didn't do anything wrong? I mean, she literally wants her cake and she wants to eat it too. The timing that Dina talks about is a very big, completely sus thing, because if the Supreme Court decides to take up her case, and we're not going to know that for a while because they're on summer recess, the Supreme Court, then what? She's going to delay testifying before Congress until her case is heard by the Supreme Court. That could take literally months. It could take until October, if not earlier. And even more importantly, is she just trying to buy time so that she can get her pardon or commutation from Donald Trump? That's the question. Is she trying to intentionally delay? Because the invocation of the Fifth, it's her constitutional right. But in this instance, why are you doing that if you allegedly just sat down with Todd Blanche and told him everything and answered all questions fully without any problems?
Okay,
and
let me ask you.
Department of Justice.
Say again, he's from the Department of Justice, you said.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, let me get you to weigh in. Katie, since you're talking, I'll get you to do it first. I want, and then I want to hear what Dina has to say about it. So I texted. I'm not an attorney, right? I'm not a dumb country lawyer, as we say down in the South.
That's right.
I'm not Matlock. And so I sent a link to an attorney that I know, a very high profile attorney. And I said, it says Maxwell offers to testify before Congress, but with major conditions, including immunity. And I said, what does this mean? Enlighten me, please. The attorney said, very nuanced. Very nuanced. She spoke to DOJ under what's called a Queen for a Day immunity already.
Yeah,
but
Queen for a Day.
That won't and can't be used. Congressional testimony is much different. She can't testify, therefore, she can't testify there without immunity while her appeal is live. She cannot testify there without immunity while her appeal is live. Okay? All right. And then I said, wait a minute. For the sake of just for clarification, she can or cannot testify there unless she has immunity while her appeal is live. Okay? And then I said, do you think that she'll do it? Thank you. And do you think she'd be doing this if she wasn't going for a pardon, and if she wasn't going to in some way try to exonerate Trump? And then the attorney says her position has always coincided with his. Ironically, she has maintained that she didn't have knowledge of what she was arranging. I actually think that if her lawyer, who is very good, didn't trust Todd Blanche, that he never would have done this. Okay, what do y'all say about this?
Well, hey. I'll start with the end of it first, right? So Todd Blanche and David Marcus, who, by the way, I'm friends with David Marcus. We're down here together in Florida. I've known him for a long time, but David Marcus isn't his client, Ghislaine Maxwell, right? But yeah, I agree that David Marcus wouldn't sit down with Todd Blanche unless he trusted what Todd Blanche was going to do. But time out for just a second. We know Dawn and Dina and everyone who's tuning in here in Lemon Nation, you can't lie to Congress. That's why she wants the immunity. Because if she gets busted lying to Congress, she's going to get her ass indicted for lying to Congress. So she wants immunity so she can get up there and say whatever she wants to say with impunity and not have a fear that it's going to result in her getting in trouble. It is a materially different analysis and situation than when she just sat down with Todd Blanche, and yet it really shouldn't be. You mean to tell me you're going to sit down with the second in charge of the Department of Justice, and you're just going to have diarrhea to the mouth and tell them everything that you want to say about what's going on. But now suddenly you want to be circumspect about what you want to tell Congress. It's because you cannot lie to Congress. We have seen people like Michael Cohen get in trouble for lying to Congress. We have seen people get indicted by the DOJ for lying to Congress, and they've gone to federal prison. So she doesn't want to have that kind of exposure right now. But more importantly, do you want to know how we could completely end run all of this and not have to litmus test if she's telling the truth and give anybody immunity? Just release the damn files in their entirety with redactions for victims and the vulnerable, and let people be able to read and decide for themselves whether or not Ghislaine Maxwell was involved or not. It is insane to me that this dog and pony performative BS is happening when the reality is the files themselves would be able to put all of this to bed. End of story.
I mean,
Dina?
yeah, I mean, I just think we need to focus on this being part of the distraction, because kind of as Katie just said, like, she's not the sole person who could give information about this. And right now, she's not going to do it until the Supreme Court decides whether or not to take up her petition. So this is a delay tactic and a distraction. Every criminal defense lawyer, though, however, would tell their client to get immunity or invoke the Fifth in front of Congress. That itself, I don't think, is unusual. But the fact is we can't really like follow the breadcrumbs, right? Trump likes to give us breadcrumbs and then we follow the breadcrumbs. And I think that if we make this too much of the story, we're actually giving in to the trail he wants us to follow, because she isn't the linchpin to unravel all of this. There are victims who are speaking out. We hear Michael Wolff talking about the many interviews he has, the recordings he has. Mark Epstein, which you did like a fantastic interview of him, has so much information, conversations around his brother. Plus, as Katie was saying, we have the files. So we can't focus so much on her. It's a delay tactic. It's a distraction. If we make her more important, we're actually doing what he wants us to do.
Talk to me about that a little bit more. So you think that this is just another distraction, even though it's within, oh my gosh, this is like for me, the woman on the internet, when it goes whom and you see like all of the calculus and trigonometry letters floating out and you're like, oh, wow. So you think that this is a distraction from him and the Epstein story inside the Epstein story with another dimension of the Epstein story, Dina?
Absolutely. This idea that she needs to testify, and it's just a matter of, is she doing the right thing by invoking immunity or not, totally makes it the story about her. And the story really isn't about her. There's so much other evidence we could focus on, plus the fact that she's so unreliable that we really, like, if this were going to trial, she wouldn't be the star witness. We can't make her the star witness. Her credibility would be attacked on the witness stand so easily. So he wants her to be the star witness, but we know she's unreliable. Let's find the evidence, the more reliable evidence that is already out there.
So Don, just really quickly though, to kind of jump forward from what Dina just said though, Trump doesn't want to release the Epstein files. What does he say within the last 48 hours? It's all of a hoax. Biden and Obama planted names in these files. It's because he knows that there's something in there, obviously, that he does not want people to see. But his base has shown that they're not going to let go of this. Like a junkyard dog over a bone, they're not going to let go. So if you're not going to turn over and release the entirety of the Epstein files, Don, what's the next best thing? Why don't I parade out Ghislaine Maxwell, who in exchange for getting out of prison is going to implicate a whole bunch of Democrats and exculpate and exonerate Donald Trump. She's going to say, no, he only was business dealings. No, he only maybe came to a few social events, but it definitely, or maybe, blah, blah, blah. But even Trump himself said yesterday, quote, I never had the privilege of going to Epstein's island. Well, A, it was definitely not a freaking privilege, but B, the guy knew exactly what the hell was going on there, right? I mean, he is so much more involved in this than he wants people to know. So why not use a willing tool in Ghislaine Maxwell, where she can explicitly have a quid pro quo? Give me a pardon commutation, or even better, let's use my appeal to the Supreme Court, which gives me an out for this co-conspirators clause in the non-prosecution agreement with Epstein. And in exchange, I will sit there and spill my guts conveniently in a way that skews in your favor. And then MAGA can latch on into a whole new, brand new, crazy conspiracy theory, and everybody is the better for it, but not the victims, to Dina's point, and not the survivors, to Dina's point, and not the truth tellers, to Dina's point. Those people get the shaft, but Donald Trump and crazy MAGA land, they all get to capitalize on this. So she's a useful tool for Donald Trump. So I wouldn't underestimate her value in him using her as like the bait and switch and say, here, look here, don't look here. Don't look for the Epstein files anymore because you don't need them. I can just give you Ghislaine Maxwell, who was an active participant.
Yeah, I can just give you the and the grand jury testimony, and I can pretend that I'm actually giving you the information that you want, or substance, or something that is of substance when it's not happening. My question is, though, let's listen. I want you to. This is Kara Swisher. If you can go just to her opening, the opening of Kara Swisher's podcast with Scott Galloway Pivot, where she talks about Ghislaine Maxwell. Here it is.
She could have told the truth a million times and saved all these women untold trauma, but she isn't, because she's a monster and deserves to stay in jail the rest of her life.
That's Kara at the beginning. Go to 2130 in this, and where she talks about Ghislaine Maxwell as well. Let me know when you have it, Andy, and we can discuss, because Kara's on fire, and I think she makes some really good points. And also, we're going to hear from the victims a little bit later on, but I want you to listen to Kara. Here she is.
Refused to do so, and she almost went up for perjury because she's a liar. She's a sexual. Dear lawyer, it is not the first opportunity she's ever been given to answer questions. She
okay,
just
Paul,
refused.
Here's the thing. I think it's important because her lawyer said this is the first time that she has actually been able to tell the truth. Let me hear the lawyer. Sorry to do this to you guys. And then Kara refused it, and then you guys can speak about it. But I want you to get the full context. Sorry to do this to everyone. Andy, you as well. But go back. Let's listen to the attorney. There we go.
Answer questions about what happened. And so the truth will come out about what happened with Mr. Epstein, and she's the person who's answering those questions.
Dear lawyer, it is not the first opportunity she's ever been given to answer questions. She just refused to do so, and she almost went up for perjury because she's a liar. She's a sexual harasser. She's convicted sex just stop it. This is a person who deserves no. I know we do immunity deals with these people to get stuff, but this cynical, horrible monster, as I said last week, is the fact that they're focused on her and not the victims continues to astonish me. And the idea that Republicans are suddenly like, oh, she's our hero, or a version of our hero. If she tells the truth, then it's good. She could have told the truth a million times and saved all these women untold trauma, but she isn't, because she's a monster and deserves to stay in jail the rest of her life. I mean, the 20 years to me is not at all long enough. I don't know what you think, but I'm just like, are you kidding me with this lady?
Okay. Thank you, Kara. I have to say, ladies, I love Kara Swisher. And I also, as a survivor, she's fucking right. She had the chance not to re-traumatize and re-traumatize and re-traumatize victims over and over and over with perjury or lying or trying not to tell the truth, of just, trying not to testify. This could have been over. She could come out and say, this is what happened. She could come out now and say, Donald Trump is, I saw him do this, or I saw nothing. But she has not. Go ahead, Dina. What do you think of what Kara said?
No, I mean, she's absolutely right. It's laughable if it wasn't so disgusting that this is somehow the first time she's had a chance to talk. I mean, come on, the number of interviews I'm sure she was subjected to. She could have made a plea deal before going to trial and talked about what she knew then. It's as if they are painting her as a victim, as if she's finally having a chance to tell her story. But victim after victim after victim is talking about how she was a participant, not just another victim of Epstein. And so, good for her for like keeping that focus on there, because that is laughable that she's finally getting her story out.
Well, Katie, you know this when you said they're treating her like a victim. You heard what Greg Kelly said. Greg Kelly says, I believe that she's a victim at this point. Did you hear that sound? And also Alan Dershowitz is saying the same thing, that she's serving the sentence for Jeffrey Epstein. Why are they trying to paint Ghislaine Maxwell as a victim and someone who, all of a sudden is telling the truth after years and years and years of having the capability and the opportunity to.
Okay, so Alex Acosta, the Trump first term Secretary of Labor, was
Amen.
the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida back in 2006. Under his authority, Jeffrey Epstein signed a non-prosecution agreement where the feds agreed not to prosecute him, and instead the state attorney's office in Palm Beach County would let him plead guilty to 2 small charges for which he got 18 months, and he was able to do house arrest and all sorts of shenanigan bullshit that nobody else got the benefit of. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That deal was a sweetheart deal that Jeffrey Epstein got back in 06-07, for which none of the victims were consulted, for which none of the victims were able to provide their input, which violated all Department of Justice policy, but in and of itself was not illegal. So they could not negate, vitiate, or remove that plea deal that Epstein had, because trust me, the victims sought to basically rewind that plea deal that Epstein got, that sweetheart deal.
Mm-hmm.
So to Kara Swisher's point, since freaking 2006, she, as in Ghislaine Maxwell, has known that her participation in all of this insanity was maybe going to be a criminal issue for her. Fast forward to 2019, Epstein gets indicted by the Southern District of New York. He claims this non-prosecution agreement, sweetheart deal that he got in 06-07 shouldn't apply to him, but in the end it did, and then he's dead before he goes to trial. But then again, starting in 2019, Ghislaine Maxwell hides out. They were looking for her. If y'all remember, they saw her she showed up at an In-N-Out in California. And then when they finally found her, she was hiding out in some exclusive home in the woods in New Hampshire when she finally got taken into custody. So she gets indicted in 2020. It's freaking 2025. She's had years to sit there and have a come to Jesus moment and tell the truth about what has happened, right? But she has failed to do so. And look, I do not begrudge somebody who has a constitutional right to remain silent. She chose to do that, but she also chose to do that at her criminal trial. That was her constitutional right. But if she wanted to blame Jeffrey Epstein, if she wanted to blame other people, and she wanted to take the position that she wasn't at fault here, then she should have started years ago. This case has been around since 2006. This is almost 20 years we've been dealing with Jeffrey Epstein. At least I have down in Florida. And the point is, there has been many, many opportunities for this woman to be able to come and say, this is what has happened. Whether it was a lie or not, whether she wanted to remove herself from culpability, Dawn, or not, she could have done it. I get it that her case is proceeding in an appellate posture right now. That's your problem, Ghislaine Maxwell. It's not mine. And if I'm Congress and I'm James Comer and I'm some, guy who likes to sit all high and mighty like Republicans like to do, and they think that they're holier than thou and they're closer to God than the rest of us, then they should be the ones that are saying, forget this bullshit immunity that you're trying to demand and just release the damn files. Why are we doing this roundabout way of trying to get to the truth? Because she has such questionable integrity and credibility. It makes absolutely no sense. You're going to send Todd Blanche, the personal lawyer for Donald Trump, to be the litmus tester as to whether or not this lady's telling the truth. You could have sent Maureen Comey, who was the lead trial lawyer who tried that case against Ghislaine Maxwell. But no, you fired her ass 3 days before Todd Blanche went down to Tallahassee. There are no coincidences here. This DOJ is dirtier than sin, and their disgusting fingerprints are all over this, and it's a cover-up. And I don't know why this is, I do not understand why the Republicans are not screaming from the rafters that all of this is just a sideshow and that is not getting us to the truth.
Oh, they're scared, Katie. I mean, they can't go up and they don't know what's in there. But I want you guys to stand by because I want to hear more about this. And I think you're right about a lot of it. And also, I want to talk to the person who wrote this fantastic article that I read today. And I was like, this is amazing. He says, on planet Earth, Obama can't be indicted, but we live on planet Trump. And so this distraction and jealousy of Barack Obama, but this distraction from the Epstein files by trying to say he wants Barack Obama indicted for colluding somehow or I don't know, with the Russia investigation. I don't know, but we're going to talk to Michael Tomasky about it in just moments. Give me 2 minutes, a word from our sponsors, and we come back. Michael Tomasky, the editor-in-chief of The New Republic, the editor of The New Republic, is going to join us, and we'll talk about that. The That Lemon Show today is brought to you by the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Across the U.S., Politicians are pushing religion into public schools. They are hanging posters of the Ten Commandments. They are placing chaplains with no clinical training into schools. And they're using vouchers to reroute public money into private religious schools, many of which exclude LGBTQ students or non-Christians. It is happening right now. The Freedom from Religion Foundation is fighting back. They are defending the First Amendment. They're doing it in court, they're doing it in Congress, and in classrooms to protect students from religious coercion and keep public education truly public. Learn more at ffrf.us/school or text my name, Don, that's DON, to 511-511. Don't let your rights be rewritten. Go to ffrf.us/school or text Don to 511-511. Text fees may apply. Support comes from Mint Mobile. You know what doesn't belong in your summer plans? That's getting burned by your wireless bill. While you're planning beach trips, barbecues, and 3-day weekends, your phone bill, well, it shouldn't hold you back. That's why so many people are switching to Mint Mobile. With Mint, you get the same premium coverage and speed that you're used to for way less money. And right now, Mint Mobile is offering 3 months of unlimited premium wireless service for just $15 a month. All plans include high-speed data and unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network. You can keep your phone, you can keep your number and all of your contacts. My team has tried Mint Mobile. It's crystal clear, reliable, and they have been using tons of data with no problem. This year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get this new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/donlemon. mintmobile.com/donlemon. Upfront payments of $45. That's required. It's equivalent of $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow at above 35 GB and extra fees and taxes may apply. So check Mint Mobile for details. Okay, so I need to be like one of those guys that can speak really fast and go, and this is. So anyways, thanks to our sponsors. Oh, welcome back to the program, everyone. Let's get back to it. Okay, so you see Dina Doll is joining us. Katie Phang is joining us. And stand by. I want to hear from Michael Tomasky. All of us are going to be on the panel. But Michael Tomasky, thank you so much for joining us here on the Don Lemon Show. The article that you wrote is fantastic. I wrote something similar for an op-ed for the Daily Beast, but not quite, I think, as poignant and as relevant as you are. You're right. On planet Earth, Obama can't be indicted, but we live on planet Trump. And I think Donald Trump will do anything that he can, number one, to divert attention from the Epstein files. And number two, because he's really jealous of Barack Obama and he really wants to be Barack Obama.
Both of those things are absolutely true, Don, and thanks for having me. And hi to my pal Katie, who was really bringing it there a couple minutes ago. Yeah, both of those things are true. And then I'd add a third thing that kind of explains why this is happening. It's happening because Trump has built this culture around him, this crazy culture around him, where these people have to anticipate his needs as if he's a little boy, his desires, not his needs, his desires, and try to please him. So this is happening really because Tulsi Gabbard stepped on it with respect to Iran, right? And she crossed Trump on Iran, and she said that Iran wasn't particularly close to a nuclear weapon. He shot her down. She was in the doghouse. She was afraid she was going to get fired. There were press reports that she was going to get fired. So she has to go back and think, I've crossed dear leader. What can I do here to make him happy? Let me think. Oh, I know. Let's spend some of the American taxpayers' money targeting one of his enemies. And that's really where this starts. And so she holds that press conference on July 18th to say that she's got this shocking new information about Obama. She doesn't. It's a little bit arcane to go into. I explain it in the piece, and it's explained elsewhere online. But she's conflating a couple things and stringing together things that prove nothing about what Barack Obama may or may not have done.
What I love, Michael, is that you did not waste the reader's time by going through whether it was true about Barack Obama and there was evidence. You said basically none of this is true. If you don't believe me, TLDR, right? Too long to read or whatever that saying is.
Right.
You're like, it is not right. Check the facts. Do the fact checks yourself. But do you actually think that he will go through it that he'll actually do it like I said, and then I'll hear from the lawyers? Because I think he might.
Well, he might. It depends on how serious he is about this and how badly he wants it. If he communicates to Pam Bondi that he wants this to happen, what evidence do we have in these last 6 months, Dawn, to suggest to us that she won't do it? Everything that we know from these last 6 months suggests that she will do it. Do they have a charge? Do they have an actual case? Can they get a conviction? Do they have witnesses? Probably the answers to all those things are no, 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 and no. But, this is Trump world. A conviction isn't really the point. The point is the revenge. The point is the besmirching of Obama's reputation. The point is the evening up of the score. The point is, making his and Michelle's lives miserable for however long they can make them miserable. That's really what this is about. The White House posted I hesitate to use the word artwork, but they love this kitsch fascist art of Trump, and they post new ones every once in a while. And they posted one last week of Trump, looking heroic, sort of fireworks in the background, and the legend at the bottom said, "I was the hunted, but now I'm the hunter." And "now I'm the hunter" was in capital letters. So that's how he perceives of himself. So, we still do live partly on planet Earth. I think it's a long shot. I think it's a long shot. But as I said on TV this morning, it's not a non-shot.
Okay, so but this is what he is posting, in relation to this, in addition to what you said. He posted this AI video of he and Barack Obama in the Oval Office, and then all of a sudden Barack Obama gets arrested and then ends up going to jail. That's how desperate he is. Roll this. Let's show it. I mean, as if, but this is what they would like to happen. Dina, have you seen this? You've seen this, huh, Michael?
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. I mean, that in itself is so disturbing, right? Like, we can't normalize the fact that a president of the United States is using AI for that kind of video. But I agree with Michael. I think he's very possible, he may do this depending on how desperate he is for a distraction. And because he has always seen, Obama as competition and Obama winning, and he may want to even this whole, criminal indictment thing up. But, we still have court system, and it's funny. I like to go on X sometimes and just see the comments people make to posts, because I don't have a lot of MAGAs in my actual life. And so many of them are like, "I'm so tired of all these Republican promises that we're going to go after people and nothing actually happens." And it doesn't actually happen, because once you go to court, you need the evidence and your law on your side, and they don't have it. It will get dismissed either because they don't have the facts and the law, or because of the Supreme Court Trump immunity decision they just made. Trump knows that. He might not want to embarrass himself with it, but he might just do it as a way of, kind of like throwing the bomb in there and making, changing the conversation.
Katie, I want to read something from Michael's article and get you to respond. He basically said something similar just moments ago, but in one of the paragraphs, Michael writes, a normal prosecutor would think of things like, but who will have testimony against him? Who will testify against him? Who will have testimony against him? Who will say that they saw him do X thing? Fair questions to be asked in a democratic society. But these are not normal prosecutors. And whether this is still a democratic society is increasingly open to question. A conviction isn't the point. The public humiliation, the besmirching of the reputation, the evening up of the historical score, these are the points. They can be accomplished, even absent a conviction, as Obama is bloodied up in the right-wing press for as long as the trial process takes. Katie?
So Michael Tomasky is one of the best writers I've ever read. And I will tell you this, he's incredibly elegant, but so he's too polite to say this. Trump is a racist. So this is what is happening here. Trump is a racist. He is a white supremacist, white nationalist. And what Trump wants to do is Trump wants to take down a black man, number one. Number two, he has been obsessed with Barack Obama for years. Do you not remember the birther conspiracy was started? Well, it didn't start with Trump, but Trump's the one who really pushed that agenda. Why? Because he got upset because he got mocked at the correspondence dinner. Do you remember that? I mean, the reality is Trump is insane, and Pamela Joe running the DOJ, she don't give a shit about ethics, and she doesn't care about professional responsibility. And she has shown that she and others are complete law lackeys for Donald Trump. Remember, she promoted election denial before she made it to the Department of Justice. She was on his election denial legal team. The biggest, dumbest part about all of this is she'll get some type of indictment from the DOJ, and putting aside whether or not there's evidence to be able to substantiate any of this. Here's the funny thing. He's going to have to use, if I'm Obama, I am not only going to be nonplussed by this, but I will invite this, because guess who's going to be testifying against Donald Trump? Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He's the freaking guy who helped lead the charge in 2020 with the Senate intel that had a report that decidedly said that the intelligence community said that Russia interfered in the presidential elections. Continues to do so, not past tense. Right. So the funniest part about all this, though, is what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If anything, I guess there's two things, Don. One, maybe Obama has a pocket pardon. Who's going to say that he didn't? I had a pocket pardon. I pardoned myself, but I don't even need it because I have presidential immunity for my conduct. So,
Teacher Katie, Professor Katie, can I jump in, please? Because of Donald Trump, aren't presidents granted immunity for doing all Barack Obama has to say, I was acting in my role as a president, and he's immune from prosecution. So then what is the point of all of this? And look, Katie, you're exactly right. And I'm glad that you could say it. You're not as nice as Michael. You're like me. And that's why I wrote this. I wrote this yesterday. It posted on the Daily Beast, why Trump's obsession with Obama is even more twisted than you think. And then I said, Donald Trump's obsession with Barack Obama isn't about politics. It's about race, resentment, and the lie that white mediocrity deserves power. So I
didn't read this, but apparently you and I are kindred spirits, Don. So I apologize that I did not read it, but yes.
Yeah. So what say you? Because he can't be prosecuted, can he? At least according to the Supreme Court. Michael, Katie, Dina?
I mean, he can. Here's the thing. The Supreme Court said that a president has complete, absolute immunity with their Article 2 powers. The rest of the presidential functions is qualified immunity, essentially. So the question would be, was he acting with his Article 2 power? Maybe you could say national security. Or was it an election issue, which is not a core Article 2 power? So that would essentially be the question for any action by a president.
Yeah. Michael, so then what is next with this? How are you watching it? Would you like to be proven right or wrong?
This is one case where I'd rather be wrong, I guess, Don. The answer to the question that you just posed to me depends on the answer to a different question, which is how intense does the Epstein matter get for Trump? Because the longer that goes on, and I have a feeling it is going to go on, and I have a feeling it is going to get worse, then the more likely he is to try to find something to divert attention. And an indictment of Obama would be a pretty tempting something for him. But, again, like back on planet Earth, I got some responses to this column on Facebook. So I have this Facebook feed, which is kind of an interesting combination of some of my old high school friends and some of the people who are my friends in my current life. And some of my old high school friends have my politics, and some of them decidedly do not. And it was interesting to see that the ones who do not kind of laughed this off and thought it was crazy, or kind of thought it would not be a good idea. So maybe actually even in MAGA world, maybe even in the Trump White House, there is someone who will say, Mr. President, let's think this through. Let's think this one through. Maybe. I don't know. Look, it makes me mad when I hear liberals say, well, they can't really mean that, because they've met everything they've said for the past 10 years. So they mean this, They mean this,
Mhm.
but they might not be able to do it.
And, just to add on to that real fast, is I also think Trump realizes that he got a lot of sympathy from people for being indicted. And he knows that that could happen to Obama. And I could see him not wanting to make Obama more popular, which I think would happen if he got indicted. So I think there's that I would not be surprised. He liked the attention in a weird way of being like the victim of the Democrats. And I think he realizes that would happen with Obama.
Okay. Michael, thank you, sir. It's a fantastic article. But real quick, Michael, I just want to get, do you think Ghislaine Maxwell is going to testify in front of Congress or that be deposed again?
As long as one of Donald Trump's defense lawyers is there looking after her. I don't know. She may, but this is another sideshow, and Katie put it really well. And just the idea that Blanche was doing that questioning is just insane.
Yeah. Michael Tomasky, the editor of the New Republic, thank you very much. I'll ask Katie and Dina on the other side of the ad break if they think that she's really going to testify. And then we're going to hear from the victims in all of this, because that's what we forget. And I want to talk about that. And you're going to hear from the president of the United States basically saying that Ghislaine Maxwell, not basically, we'll play it for you. We played it at the top of the hour. We'll play it again. Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein stole his girls. And that is a quote from his mouth, a partial quote from Donald Trump's mouth. First, a word from our sponsors, and we're back with the news. Support comes from Magic Spoon. Who doesn't miss ripping open a box of cereal as a kid? Magic Spoon took that childhood joy and they gave it a grown-up upgrade. Cereal with 13 grams of protein, 0 sugar, and only 4 net carbs per serving. Perfect for a low-carb lifestyle, but the flavors still hit that nostalgia button, okay? Fruity, cocoa, frosted like Saturday morning cartoons, but with macros your body will thank you for. And don't sleep on Magic Spoon treats. These crispy, crunchy bars pack in 12 grams of protein and come in flavors like marshmallow, chocolate, peanut butter, and dark chocolate. Perfect for the on-the-go pre- or post-workout or even late-night craving. So, ready to try? Get $5 off your next order at magicspoon.com/lemon or find them on Amazon or at your local grocery store. That's magicspoon.com/donlemon for $5 off. Support comes from Z-Biotics. Let's be honest. The rough mornings after a night out aren't from dehydration. They're from a toxic byproduct that alcohol creates in your gut. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the first genetically engineered probiotic designed to break that byproduct down so you feel better the next day. Just make it your first drink of the night and enjoy responsibly and let the science work for you. I tried it before a big night out and the next morning I was on top of my game. The final days of summer are here. Beach trips, camping, road trips. Make the most of them. Bring Z-Biotics pre-alcohol and wake up ready for the day. So go to zbiotics.com/lemon for 15% off your first order with code LEMON. They back it with a 100% money back guarantee, no questions asked. That's zbiotics.com/lemon, code word LEMON for 15% off. Thanks to our sponsors. Absolutely. Thanks 100% to our sponsors. We appreciate it. We're grateful to have them. Okay, so back now with Katie Phang and Dina Doll. And I'm going to play this again because I think it's important that you hear it. This is Donald Trump speaking about his breakup, so to speak, with Jeffrey Epstein. And it's interesting to hear what he says about Epstein and Maxwell. Here is the president.
So, Mr. President, Epstein has a certain reputation, obviously. But just curious, were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
Were some of them
young women?
Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken. And it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad. But that story's been pretty well out there. And the answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they were young women?
What did they do? In the spa.
In the spa?
Yeah, people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago. And people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again, and I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Jeffrey?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her.
He stole her. Now, how old was Virginia Giuffre when she worked at the spa for Donald Trump? How old was Virginia Giuffre when she was a victim of Jeffrey Epstein? And should someone at such an age be working in a spa? I don't know. I heard from Dina a bit earlier. Katie, I want to hear from you. Oh, but Dina, we didn't discuss this one, but I want to hear from both of you basically about what Donald Trump just said there. I'm surprised that he keeps answering these questions because it seems to me the more he talks, the more he digs himself a hole.
You want to go ahead, Dina?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I think that's exactly the point, Dawn. We knew that happened, that she was trafficked from Mar-a-Lago because of statements she made. But this is the first time, I think, and you guys can correct me, that Trump acknowledged he knew she was basically taken from that spot. And here again, if we're putting this on trial, what kind of evidence this is, this would definitely be played because it's connecting the dots. It's knowledge now. And also, of course, in that he seems bothered more by the fact that he's taking in an employee, but there was enough known about Epstein at the time. And also these were young girls. I mean, I don't know the age, but she had to have been a minor because she was trafficked as a minor, and it happened
according to the sources, at least 3 times Virginia Giuffre, and it was also part of Prince Andrew, remember, 17. She was 17 in 2001.
Yeah, so I think it's the knowledge. The more he talks, the more he's showing how guilty he is.
So this is what version of the split with Jeffrey Epstein? It was one version we've heard is it was a argument over a real estate deal that Jeffrey Epstein outbid Donald Trump on a real estate deal. So that pissed off Trump, and that's the reason they split. Another version we've heard of the split between Epstein and Trump was, Epstein was trying to pick up the young daughter of a friend of his or a Mar-a-Lago club goer. And that's the reason why. And now here's another iteration of why they split up, which just further underscores that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein had more relationships and more connections than what Donald Trump is willing to admit, which is another reason why we don't see the entirety of the Epstein files being released. But remember, with somebody like Donald Trump not only had underage girls working at Mar-a-Lago, which is child labor, number one, but number two, remember Donald Trump also has undocumented immigrants working at his businesses. Right? I mean, it's the abject hypocrisy of Donald Trump that, and most Republicans, frankly, that they want to accuse other people. Every accusation is a confession by these people. Every accusation is a confession by Republicans. And so in this instance, Donald Trump can never help himself. He will always keep on speaking and it will do him in. The only benefit he gets right now is he is controlling all the levers of power. And so the federal prosecutors are all in his pocket and doing whatever he wants them to do. And so that is the reason why you see state attorneys general, state attorneys, district attorneys. That's why we had that happen even before he got into office. That's why you had the Tish Jameses of the world. And, those people that are sitting there and saying, we are going to try to seek the justice that we can seek. The most tragic thing about all of this, though, is Virginia Giuffre died by suicide. She never got over the trauma of having been the victim of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, right? And Prince Andrew, like all of these people. And so, Dawn and Dina, I'm glad that you just keep on bringing up the fact that there are victims and survivors of this that have not been heard from, but they were excluded from the plea agreement with Epstein back in 06-07. And even now, 2 federal judges, when Trump's DOJ filed that motion to unseal the grand jury transcripts, both of them in the order said, we haven't heard from a single victim. You, as in the government, you are required to let us know what is happening with these victims because they actually have a right to be heard.
Yes. And speaking of a right to be heard, this is, I believe it was 2020, This is Miss Giuffre speaking to Gayle King.
She is a monster. She's worse than Epstein. She did things even worse than Epstein did. She was vicious, she was evil, and she was a woman.
Her lawyers have said Ghislaine Maxwell is not a Jeffrey Epstein, that she has been a victim of media spin.
They're doing their job, but I know that woman. I've known her really well. Put it this way. Epstein was Pinocchio, and she was Geppetto. She was the guy controlling
the strings.
Jeffrey. Yep, she was pulling the strings. She had his money. He had her contacts. But Ghislaine was much more conniving and smart than Epstein ever was.
What do you think, Dina?
Yeah, I mean, I think that says everything. You know, she's pulling the strings. The person pulling the strings is not going to finally come and actually tell us the truth, whether or not it's in front of Congress or any other time. She is always going to cover herself, as she has from the beginning. It is time to hear from the victims, hear who they were trafficked with. I mean, they have the information. It's not as if we can't get this information someplace else.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of that timeline, the timeline is odd. I want to put up the timeline, the alleged timeline that someone tweeted, because it just doesn't make sense what Donald Trump is saying. And it makes him look bad because he continued to remain friends with Jeffrey Epstein, apparently after he knew he was a creep, I don't know, and say good things about it. So here's a very disturbing part, the timing and Trump's knowledge. Year 2000, Epstein-Maxwell took Virginia Giuffre from Mar-a-Lago. Okay. And then he said, okay, well, I said no more. Well, then in 2002, Trump said most infamous line about Epstein being a terrific friend and liking younger ones. Okay. So that was, I think that was a magazine interview, but he said something about it. I don't know specifically the context. And in 2004, this is apparently when the rupture with Epstein happened. Donald Trump is saying it's because he took people from Mar-a-Lago, but folks who are in the know are saying it's over a real estate deal. So Donald Trump is lying. The quote was to New York Magazine in 2002, by the way. So what gives here, Katie? What gives here?
Well, look, there's a dead person, and that's Jeffrey Epstein. And the big question mark of how he died is obviously another big problem with Pamela Joe, because she doesn't even bother to give us the real raw files, you know, in terms of the video files. But I always go back to the law. And if you look at the allegations in the indictment, Dawn, for Ghislaine Maxwell, not Jeffrey Epstein, for Ghislaine Maxwell, and she went to trial, and a jury of her peers found her guilty of 5 federal felonies that involved everything from transporting a minor for purposes of sexual activity to actual sex trafficking of these young girls. And Maxwell, she groomed these girls. Of course, you have an elegant woman with a British accent who approaches you. She normalized the abuse. She made them ready for this. She abused them herself. Women can do just as bad stuff as men can. For her to now be playing the victim and conveniently blaming the dead guy, Jeffrey Epstein, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit with the evidence that was presented at her trial. She recruited other girls to go recruit other younger girls. She was one, if not the mastermind, which is why Virginia Giuffre was telling the truth. Jeffrey Epstein had his own social awkwardness. He certainly was not the person who was this debonair man about town. It was Ghislaine Maxwell who had the access. Remember, she came from a wealthy family in Britain. She was already in high society. She went, and the two of them would prey on vulnerable girls that came from broken homes, that needed parental figures, that needed a place to go. She preyed on these victims. She is just as culpable as Jeffrey Epstein, if not worse. And the fact that she's trying to mitigate her involvement by blaming the dead guy is, again, outrageous.
Let's hear from the victims, as we should. Here are a few of them speaking out about Epstein and what they suffered.
I distinctly remember him smiling and enjoying the fact that he was doing this. He asked me to take my clothes off. I was trembling. I was so scared. He began to touch me. It quickly turned into an assault.
I was so young. Ghislaine woke me up in the morning and said, "You're going to meet a prince today." And Ghislaine said, "He's coming back to the house." And I want you to do for him what you do for Epstein.
Epstein walked out and said, "Oh, no, 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 she's not here for you." And he said, "Come with me." And he escorted him into another office. And I was like, who's in there? And when he said, "Oh, I thought she was 16, I thought, is there a 16-year-old in there? There's hundreds of us that were preyed upon.
Jeffrey thought that we were disposable and he threw us all away. And look who's still standing.
Will there be some real justice here? Will there be some real justice? And when you hear from those victims, that's what I don't understand. I mean, that's the whole point. When you hear from those women, why not release the damn files and just redact the name of the victims? Why all of this? Oh, we don't want, information getting out there to people. It may, be harmful for the victims. Obviously, the victims want their stories told, and there are those who want their stories told publicly or not anonymously, and there are those, I'm sure all of them, want their stories told anonymously. So if you could bring light to what is happening here by redacting the names or any information that might identify the victims and just release the files, I don't understand the reasoning behind not doing it unless, Dina.
Unless, I mean, Michael Wolff just, he's been talking a lot lately. And he talked about how when he was doing his interview for the
let me play this. Sorry to cut you. Let me play this real quick. Yeah, let's play the Michael Wolff, what Michael Wolff said.
But at any rate, at one point after Trump had been elected, I was sitting talking to Epstein, and he said, "Wait a minute, I got to show you something." And then he went into his safe, and he came out with photographs. They were Polaroids, I think, and he kind of spread them out like playing cards, and it was Trump. I mean, I think there were a dozen of them, and it was Trump with girls of an uncertain age at Epstein's Palm Beach house, where all of the things that he would ultimately be accused of took place. And I remember very vividly 3 of them. There are 2 in which Trump is, the girls, topless girls, are sitting on Trump's lap. And then a 3rd in which he has a stain on the front of his pants. And the girls are kind of pointing at it, sort of bent over, laughing, covering
their mouths.
Yeah, exactly. And pointing, 3 or 4 girls. And those are the ones I specifically remember. And my assumption is that they were in the safe, and I have seen him on other occasions take them out of the safe. And I think it's certainly not unlikely that they were in the safe when the FBI came in after his arrest and took everything from the house, including everything.
You
that
get
was
the point,
in
Dina.
the
I'm sorry I cut you off, but I wanted people to hear that, but because that's what you were talking about. Some of these instances that Michael Wolff is talking about.
That was the exact instance I was going to talk about. So that was great because you can very easily have a logical conclusion, but that's why Trump doesn't want it released. I mean, because talk about incriminating and damning evidence, those photographs. The more Trump speaks about this, the more he tries to distract from this, the more guilty I frankly think he is. And to your point, you were kind of saying earlier, like, will there ever be justice? There has been a cohort of people in this country that have been on this story for a very, very long time. And maybe a little bit in a quieter way. Mainstream media wasn't picking up that story in a way that these circles of, conversations were. Now that it's in kind of the limelight, I would say, I don't think this is going to go away until there is justice. Whether or not we are going to have complete justice or not is unclear. But I think this story is going to be kept alive because it frankly has been kept alive for a very long time.
You go ahead, Katie.
I want to go to the actual DOJ memo that was released back on July 6th, which was 23 days ago. And the DOJ memo says the following. They did an exhaustive review the FBI conducted digital searches of its databases, hard drives, network drives, as well as physical searches of squad areas, locked cabinets, desks, closets, and other areas where responsive material may have been stored. These searches uncovered a significant amount of material, including more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. It's not just a client list. It's not just a piece of paper, people. It is more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. There is a treasure trove of information that could be released, that could be done so in a respectful way, that would protect the identity of all of the victims unless they have agreed to have their identities released publicly, that would satiate all public curiosity about what has happened in this case. Some statutes of limitations still apply, though, in certain jurisdictions. So guess what? Maybe people who are culpable and guilty and have their hands dirty, John, maybe they are looking at some criminal exposure here. But why the cover-up? Why continue to protect people that participated in child sex trafficking rings? Why protect pedophiles for a party that screams about trying to make sure that we protect the children? Republicans certainly are doing a shitty job of doing that, don't you think? And now, because this has been going on for so long, they just assume that we don't care anymore. Well, the irony is we care more than they do. But Trump's own FBI and DOJ are telling the American people that there is a wealth of information there. So to insult the American people at the same time and say that there's nothing here and that it's just a nothing burger, and that's the reason why we all need to move on. Move along, people. Nothing to see here. It's an absurdity.
Worse to end on. Thank you, Katie Phang. Thank you, Dina Doll. And Katie Phang is the attorney, a legal analyst, and the host of the Katie Phang Show right here on YouTube, powered by the Midas Touch Network. Dina Doll is an attorney, a legal analyst, and also a host on the Midas Touch Network. Everything is powered by the Midas Touch Network. Ben and all the guys over there, they're great. They're great to work with. And they were, so when I started doing this, they were so helpful, and I got such great advice from them. And you guys are always just so, just gracious with your time, generous, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I will see you both soon. Thank you, Dina and Katie. So, look, let me just say this to you. We always want to show you and bring to light facts, reality, and what's important. And what's important are the stories of the victims. They deserve justice, and it's also important to know what is happening with our leaders. If our leaders are implicated in any of these incidents in any way in this matter. And that's the important part that we need transparency around. And that's why I cannot understand why all of a sudden Donald Trump and these folks don't want to release the information after crowing about it for years, about releasing the Epstein files. And then all of a sudden, nothing. And then all of these connections to Jeffrey Epstein. Perhaps there's nothing. But in the court of public opinion, everyone is left to think you must be hiding something. So why not shut them up? Release the files. Release the files. If you want to check out anything about our show, go to donlemon.com. You can watch us. The top button is where you can see us on YouTube. The others are the streaming platforms that we also stream on, and that is Spotify, iHeart Radio, and Apple Podcasts. You can also get our Substack information there as well on the donlemon.com, and our merch. You guys asked for merch. You asked for it. You got it. So you can go right to donlemon.com and click on merch and get all the things, including all the hats and everything that you guys asked me about on the streets today. I was talking to this guy. You'll see it on social media. And then he looks at me and he goes, "Oh my gosh, are you Don Lemon?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "I didn't recognize you in the hat and sunglasses. By the way," he said, "I love the hat." Anyway, so check out our merchandise, and also anything you need about the show is there. You can also go to our YouTube page and you can click on there and you can get the information about the show and go to store, and you can get to the merch page there as well. Also, check us out on August 12th at City Winery right here in New York City. City Winery, DL and DL, Anything Goes Episode 2, Don and DL Hughley. By the way, you better get your tickets now. I got a text from the City Winery folks saying, "Hey, listen, maybe we might want to add a day, but if you're going to add another date because the tickets are selling out, We got to know quickly. So we may be selling out. So if you want your tickets to this one, you better get it now, or it's going to be sold out. And we're not so sure about a second show. Okay. But they're thinking about it because the tickets are selling. All right. So go check it out. Go to either our page, donlemon.com, or go to our page on YouTube, our show page, and you can check out DL and DL, or just you can Google City Winery, Don Lemon, DL and DL, episode 2, anything goes. Okay. So until I see you tomorrow, be informed without being inundated. Don't sit in front of the TV for all of the outrage porn that you get all the time. Okay? Till I see you at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning for Hot Topics. Turn the TV off. Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you next time.